Hello, everyone. So, welcome to NSC Study Break. I'm Felicia, and our guest today is Jared Carls. For those of you who don't know, Jared and I went to the University of Puerto Rico, Rio Piedras in the spring, and he was probably one of my closest, if not my closest friend in Puerto Rico. So, he's here today to tell us all about his experience. So, welcome, Jared. Thank you so much for agreeing to do this interview with me.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here.
Oh, okay. So the first thing I want to ask you is where are you from and what is your host institution?
I am from Wisconsin. I went to college in Stevens Point, so University of Wisconsin, Stevens Point, which I know you can go to if you want. I met a friend who I was an RA, and she was one of my students in my community who was, I think she was from Illinois or Iowa. I should know, but I forgot. I'm sorry. And so, yeah, it's in Wisconsin.
How did you hear about the NSC program at your school?
I actually went, so I had previously studied abroad in Spain. And so I had lots of friends who like did things for the study abroad office. And I went to go visit him at one of my friends at a study abroad fair. And so while I was waiting for him to finish what he was doing, I was kind of walking around, and then I stumbled upon this NSE table, and I'm like, ooh, what's this? And the guy who was doing the information for that kind of told me about it. And then I saw that Puerto Rico was an option, and I was like, ooh, Puerto Rico, that would be fun. Because I'm a Spanish major. I should have said that earlier, but and so I was like, oh, that would actually be like really cool with what I study. So that kind of got me on the track to
That's so cool.
yeah.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I think for me, I just got an email one day. I got an email like over Christmas break freshman year, and it was like National Student Exchange, and I was like, oh, I don't really have anywhere to go. And then I saw Puerto Rico, and I was like, wait a minute. I was like, Puerto Rico?
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, but that I
I
think
Puerto Rico, I was like, ooh, that's an option.
yeah, I feel like that's the thing that I like about the NSC program that I always say to people is they hear national and they just think that, oh, you only go within the continental US. And it's like, you can do Spanish, Puerto Rico, you can do French in Canada, you can go to Hawaii, you can go to Guam, you can go to the Virgin Islands, and people don't really realize that.
Yeah. No, it's so much variety. I was shocked by that too. I was like, wow, they have like tons of options. Because yeah, I know for us, my recruiter or my study abroad advisor, apparently a lot of Wisconsin people, or at least people who went to my school, go to Alaska. So
Oh, yeah, there is Alaska.
'cause I was like, oh yeah, Alaska, we could go there, and I'm sure that's really beautiful. Um, although it is during the winter, so
Oh,
you'd have to love the cold.
yes, I would love to go to Alaska. Honestly, I wish I could have also went to Hawaii and Guam and Alaska. And I would have loved to have gone to an HBCU. Like I honestly, I'm like, darn, I wish I would have kept doing the NSC program, like, but
Yeah, no, I totally get that. I had that same too because I was deciding between I really Puerto Rico was my first choice, but like I was also looking at like other places within the Tennessee because yeah, there's so many options, and you're like, oh, I want to go there. Oh, and I want to go there. Yeah.
was Rio Piedras your first choice or like were you looking at other UPR campuses as well?
So I did a lot of looking into like the different because Puerto Rico especially has like a ton of options. So I did a lot of those, and I think it came down to like Rio Piedras, um, Bayamon, Mayaguez. I don't know. I think those were like the three that I was like I could go to either any of these and probably be happy and excited. But what sold me on Rio Piedras was the housing. That really they were the only one I think that offered like on campus housing. So that was what tipped it in their favor.
Yeah, that's how I felt too, because I mean, I think it would be kind of scary to go to another place and have to find your own off campus housing. So, yeah, the fact they had on campus housing was like I think that was kind of like the thing and the fact that it's so close to, well, technically it is in San Juan, but like it's so close to Old San Juan, so we would take an Uber, go to Old San Juan for the day, come back.
Completely. Yeah, it was super convenient.
Yes, it was. It was so much fun. But okay, so speaking of Old San Juan, all the things we did, what were some of your favorite parts about exchange?
Ooh. Honestly, I got to skip winter. That is so amazing to me. So we, like you said before, we went in spring. So like from January to, well, I guess March. We got some from March. But I got to miss almost all of winter, which was super fun. And not only did I get to miss winter, but I got to go to like the beach all the time. And I think probably my favorite was that road trip we took to Cabo Rojo. That was probably my favorite thing that we did.
Yeah, it was so pretty. Like I remember I sent a picture to my friend and they said it looked like a desktop screensaver from like a computer. Like it just was so unreal.
Literally. No, it was crazy. It was so surreal being there and you're like, wow, I'm surrounded by ocean and just I don't know, because in Wisconsin we do have beaches. Like we're right on Lake Michigan and there's a ton of lakes near me, but like to be like, oh wow, we're not even landlocked. We're like out here in the ocean. It was kind of cool.
Yes, we went to the beach a lot, I think. Like
we did quite a bit, yeah. And even if not, it was just so warm all the time. Like I feel like I was outside so much more than I am normally, which was fun.
yeah, I feel that way too. I feel like back home, if I go outside, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so hot. But in Puerto Rico, like the buildings are kind of like made to where like the sun is always coming in. Like you're always like in nature.
Uh-huh. No, that's a good point actually, because yeah, I loved that about the university layout. The fact that like even when it was raining, it was like warm, and then you could walk through the halls and there's just palm trees, and like it's just so pretty all over campus. It was really gorgeous to just even be there. I was like, wow.
Yeah, I imagine that's what like Zoe 101 was probably like. Like
Literally, that's in my head. I was like, oh wow. I'm literally in California where it's just warm and all the hallways are outdoors and you're just walking to class.
yeah.
Whereas in Wisconsin, it's like it literally like the year before I went to Puerto Rico, it was like snowing from October and then we get snow as late as May sometimes. Like it's crazy. So
It like barely snows in South Carolina. So even though Puerto Rico is more tropical, I think it was similar to the climate here. So like I'm used to always seeing the beach. And I do remember you and everyone from the Midwest was so excited to see the beach.
Literally. Because it was January, Felicia. My mind was blown. I was like, oh my gosh, it's January and I'm on the beach and it's warm. Oh, amazing.
I get it. Honestly, mine was too. So yeah, those were some great parts about Puerto Rico, but I want to ask you now the opposite. So what was a challenge or what were some challenges you had to overcome? And do you feel like you learned anything about yourself?
That's actually a good question. I really think I can honestly say I did learn a lot about myself because I had gone, like I said, I had previously studied abroad in Spain, and I felt like I left Spain with so much more like Spanish knowledge, and then also just like living on your own, making it in like a different country, like that's a super important skill, traveling, and just like making sure that you're understanding things, even if it is in another language. And I felt like coming back to Wisconsin after that, it was like, oh, all my Spanish classes were suddenly a lot easier and blah, blah, blah. But because had been away from like speaking it for so long, getting back and like having to get used to a different accent that I'm used to, and in a second language, I really learned to like ask for help. Like you and me probably were the ones who went to that tutoring place more than the rest, but that place like saved my life sometimes because I was like, it was just good to like have a place where it was okay to make mistakes when speaking. And so I really like just discovered how, like, or I guess rediscovered how to like um just be responsible and try to make an effort to do your best and to make sure you're understanding things as best as possible. Because I remember I would always be scared to talk to the professors too, but by the time right before we left, it was really like I was more confident in like having conversations with them, clarifying things. Um, so I think in that way I grew, and especially it kind of sucks that we left like midway because I remember thinking like I think we left on a weekend, and I remember thinking that Wednesday I had class in a with the class that I was really struggling with, and it went so well. And I gave a presentation, and it went in Spanish, and it just went really well. And I was like, "Oh my gosh, I made it! I can do this! I can finish the semester and be fine." And then coronavirus happened, but yeah, no, I think even in just those 3 months, it was a huge growth for me personally.
Yeah, I feel that way too. I think you're right that just going there and being accustomed to a different accent I think that was one of the most difficult things for me. I had made an effort, to like try to familiarize myself with the Puerto Rican accent, but I think it's just one of those things you have to be there and you have to hear it and
Exactly.
be like, is this Spanish?
Yeah, right. No, for real. No, it sounds crazy. I'm sure people might watch that and be like, "Really?" But it sounds crazy. But yeah, it's different. Like, yeah, it's crazy hearing like a non like a lot of my professors weren't even like native speakers. So my professors in Wisconsin would speak with like an Americanized Spanish accent, and so when you get to Puerto Rico and it's like different and really fast, and yeah, that was definitely a challenge for sure.
Yeah, I think you're right about it being really fast. But I mean, I think it was a good experience, but I think now it just makes me think, if someone learns English in the UK or in Australia and they hear me talk, I'm like, am I like a Puerto Rican person to them? Are they like, what is she saying?
Yeah, no, I sometimes feel that way because I know, like, I don't know if you watch like British television, but so I used to watch Big Brother UK, and a lot of those accents, I was like, they're speaking English, but it's taking me a lot of effort to like understand what they're saying in my head, and so I did have that experience with yeah, because in the UK, it's not just like a British accent, like how we like stereotype a British accent. It's like a lot of different like colloquial words that they use too, like Scottish and like Irish has their own language. Ireland has their own language too. So I'm sure a lot of those words I would like not get. And stuff,
Yeah.
so
Yeah, and I think, yeah, just the whole like getting accustomed to the accent. And I think you're right, like pushing ourselves out of our comfort zone to ask for help. I feel like the first time we went to tutoring, I know the first time I went, I was so scared.
I was terrified. I was like, oh my gosh, they're gonna think I'm an idiot. Yeah.
Yeah. And then they literally, obviously, were like, honestly, I feel like had we kept going, we would have became like best friends with the tutor.
Oh, for sure. Oh, for sure. We were already like just getting to like that would be our session. Would be like, okay, now we can just like have a conversation, and it's okay if I make mistakes and ask questions. So let's just talk about our lives and what we're doing. And so yeah, I feel like we got close with them. So
Yeah, and I think it was just so fun that like we were having a conversation, but we were studying, and it's like we were contributing to bettering our Spanish, but we were just like we were literally just complaining or like just talking about whatever.
yeah, yeah, no, completely. And that's what makes it fun. I don't know. That it was you're right. It was we were studying, we were bettering our knowledge, but we were also just like hanging out with friends. It was fun.
Yes. And I think what you mentioned about being afraid to talk to teachers, I feel like that's probably the biggest hurdle that a lot of students face. Not even just teachers, but like going to a restaurant and being afraid to ask for something extra, being afraid to just ask for anything because or I was just so self-conscious that, people are gonna tear us apart.
No, completely. I had the same anxiety. I would be like, I'm gonna say something wrong, and then they're gonna laugh, or like they're gonna like give me a little side eye. And I mean that happens, but like you just like learn to accept it, and then if it does happen, you'll never forget about it. So you'll remember for next time. Like that's part of learning is being wrong. I think with language more so even than like other things that you get tested on. So.
Yeah, that's very true. And I think the funny thing about Spanish is that, we know that Hispanic people come in all colors and they come like in such a diverse spectrum, especially in Puerto Rico. So I think, if we were learning a language with a very homogenous community, it would be obvious we're not native speakers, but it's like you could be Puerto Rican and I could be Puerto Rican. And it's just like they're so confused why we can't speak Spanish because Puerto Rican people look so different. So it's like, why do you not know Spanish? And it's like, I'm not Puerto Rican.
Right? You're like, yeah, I have to explain. I'm not Puerto Rican.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like I'm obviously not Puerto Rican, but you're right. That it's like very diverse.
Yeah. And I'm sure in Spain, you probably dealt with that more since it's a European country.
Yeah, totally.
That was definitely a big challenge. But okay, so my last question I want to ask you is why would you recommend NSC to students that, are interested in not just studying Spanish, but I guess just broadening, their experiences in general?
Completely. So I would recommend it. It's a lot of the same reasons why I would really recommend that everyone go to study abroad. Obviously, that's very like conditional because not everyone can afford it. But I think NSC is actually, if you can afford like a study abroad outside the country, NSC is just your school's tuition half the time, if that's what you want it to be. So it would just be the same price that you're already paying plus the plane ticket and then some extra school fees. So I feel like I would recommend it based on that, like in a way where like I recommend you study abroad. And if you can't study like outside of the country, I really recommend taking NSC just because getting used to another community is such an important skill, I feel like. And especially in Puerto Rico, like that's a whole nother world compared to Wisconsin, at least. So, like going there, it's just broadens your horizons. I know that's kind of a cliche term, but it really just makes you aware of the other people in the United States that you would never otherwise have the chance to interact with. And you get to know their stories and you get to experience their culture, their life. And I know it might not seem like a totally different culture if you're saying going from Wisconsin to Minnesota, but it's still a difference and it's still a unique experience that you can never have otherwise. So yeah, I would completely recommend it for almost anyone who wants to.
Yeah, I totally agree with you about everything that you said, and especially about the affordability part. I think what's interesting is like you're right, you are just paying your university's tuition, but I think for most of us the cost of housing was a lot cheaper in Puerto Rico than it was, in South Carolina or in Wisconsin. So I ended up saving so much money by going to Puerto Rico.
Yeah, no, completely. It was cheaper than what I pay at my university too. So the housing was. Because I ended up paying Stevens Point tuition. That was the plan that I went on. So that was still the same, but the housing was cheaper. So that was super nice.
Yes, that was so nice. And I also think what you said about just, getting to experience another community, I think you're so right because I know for me, we knew that, Hurricane Maria had hit but it's not really being talked about now. And to hear so many students say, like, my hometown is still destroyed. We still barely have power and water. It's just like, oh my gosh, like I didn't know that was going on, And then how they are citizens, just to hear about how they feel like they're in this weird limbo state where they're citizens, but at the same time they feel like they're denied so many rights. The US is kind of slow to help them the way that they help the rest of the continental US. And I felt like it was a chance to hear, like you said, like people's stories that I'd never really thought about. And I feel like it made me more empathetic to think like, this is what they're experiencing. And I had no idea. I just assumed we all had a very similar experience because we were all like a part of the US,
Yeah. Yeah, I knew a little bit before going, but like taking a Puerto Rican history class, which is a class that I would never have access to in Wisconsin, and taking I also took Puerto Rican politics, and that's another class. They have totally different candidates that they care about, and they have a really, like you said, odd position in U.S. national politics. So that was super interesting. Puerto Rican art history was another class I took, and you just open up to this whole new gem of like different cultures. Like I think we were talking about it actually, because your history class lined up with my art history class. So like learning about the Taínos and the Huecoides and Salinoides. Uh, it's just super interesting, and it's just something I would never have if I didn't go on this exchange. So completely co-sign what you said. Completely.
Yeah, it was really interesting. It was just, like you said, we would have never had the opportunity to take some of those classes here. And then I just feel like, I don't know, it makes me like relook at my own major, my own school's department, and think about like how we can better incorporate the history of other places instead of just giving like South American history or like Latin American history. It's like, there are really interesting stories in each of these countries that I feel like deserve to be shared, with everyone.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. And it's especially important if you do come from a smaller university. Like my university is pretty small, so we already don't have like the biggest, like wide ranging class topics due to like our limited size. So like just yeah, getting out and experiencing stuff like that is super important.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Thanks for giving such great advice to everyone. I thought you were like, say something like, oh, I recommend NSU because of this, but you just gave like this heartfelt speech. And I was like, he's so right.
No, because I don't know. I just like thought about it and I was like, I would like never even know about like so much knowledge that I have about Puerto Rico now that I can just like talk off or like talk about because yeah, I don't know. And I think that's just, I think that's super cool that not everyone has that experience. So the fact that you do, and you do have that knowledge now, and you can bring that to people in Wisconsin is just, it's almost like an awesome superpower kind of.
Oh, yes, you're right. That's such a great way to like explain it, a superpower.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, Jared, thank you so much for doing this interview with me and just being here. As always, you are literally the absolute best.
Thank you. You're too nice. Yeah. I love being here. Thanks for having me. And I love to catch up. So.
And to everyone watching at home, I just want to say thank you again. And make sure that whatever platform you're watching on, YouTube, Instagram, whatever, to make sure that you follow the NSE page and that hopefully you too can decide to study abroad somewhere through the NSE program. So thank you all so much, and I'll talk to you next time.